Welcome to the Massacre Matinee.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to the Matinee, Kate.
This is the second time that we're recording this.
Sorry about the first time.
The first time you guys were saved because I had COVID when we recorded the first time. I no longer have COVID. I'm fine. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I kind of
quarantined the podcast.
I honestly thought it would affect me a lot worse just since I have a lot of respiratory issues, but it really didn't. Other than the
I don't know. For a day there, you were going, I can't breathe. Everything's so heavy.
The first 2 days when I didn't even think that it was COVID and I thought it was just my asthma acting up, that was the worst. But then the body aches kind of hit and I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
But otherwise, I'm good. I mean, I still have a little bit of the respiratory stuff, but that's just, I always have that last a lot longer just because of those conditions. So
understandable.
Yeah. Give me a month and
You'll be completely back to normal.
Yeah.
I mean, mentally you're there, just exhausted.
Kind of.
So, this is take 2 of doing the Gypsy Rose case, which works out because she just got out of jail yesterday. Prison.
Yes, and there's already people, oh my god, I hate that this happened. I think in the episode we said that we hope it wouldn't happen, but it's happening. But she's being followed by paparazzi and everything like that, but it does seem like she has a professional camera crew following her around.
Probably some kind of documentary.
I think that they are recording another documentary that is set to come out in 2024, and I think it's going to be her talking about being out, because she does have her new book that comes out January, I think. I believe it's January. I know it's in 2024.
Okay.
And in that book, she gets into a lot of the abuse that she didn't really tell anyone about with her mom and all of that kind of thing, so
her mom was actually pretty abusive.
Yeah, and then she just kind of gets into more detail into the book, and I'm gonna read it when it comes out.
Okay.
I like reading memoirs like that. So we're going to jump into Gypsy Rose. This is a very well-known case. There's obviously some pretty good documentaries.
Series documentary film things. There's The Act, I believe that's on Hulu. It was a Hulu original.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Mommy, Dead, and Dearest, which I think was HBO.
It's on multiple different.
It's on multiple different,
and then
but it was
also
originally
Gypsy's
HBO.
Revenge. Those are the top 2 documentaries. The Act has a good way,
it's a good
story,
reenactment, but it's not
a good
all
storytelling.
accurate.
But again, with that, some of the stuff you have to kind of be like, okay, maybe this didn't actually happen exactly how it was, and that's where a lot of
speculation comes from,
and a lot of feedback and backlash from Gypsy herself comes in, because she's like, well, it didn't actually happen this way, and I think that's why she also wanted to write the book, to show this is how it happened, this is what I went through.
Right. But the thing about The Act is that there were some gaps in the plot line that they just, for movie making purposes, they had to fill in. So they did take some movie making liberties, but
I think Joey King did actually a really good job, though.
I haven't actually seen it yet.
You should, because she gets
I
her
promised I
mannerisms.
wouldn't until after we did this. So, but
tonight, bitch, you better start it. It's really good. Joey King does a really good job at getting her mannerisms and that the voice down, which Gypsy's kind of lost. She doesn't have that little kid's voice that she always spoke with, that DeeDee made her speak with, and Joey King got that down
uncomfortably well.
I wasn't a huge fan of Joey King's work before The Act. I think The Act was a really good breakout role from her, playing the Dutzy love interest in a lot of her movies. But she did really well in The Act, and I kind of wish that she would do more stuff like that, because she kind of just did that one thing and then just went back to doing exactly what she was doing before. So.
Well, but the thing about The Act is she's not having to create a character within herself because she's trying to replicate someone that already exists. So maybe it's just that things of that nature are more showcase of her skill, I guess.
Gypsy Rose was born in 1991. Born full term, from what I found. Pretty healthy.
Healthy, normal pregnancy, normal baby, everything like that.
Yeah, from what I knew. Her parents. So they married young, and they got married only because I believe DeeDee fell pregnant. So they was like, okay, gotta be married, you know, got a girl pregnant. Because he was young.
Trying to do the responsible
there
thing,
was a
quote
decent
unquote.
age gap. She was in her, I think she was like 23 and he was like 16.
Wow.
So there was a decent age gap.
And that was in a time when people weren't like, oh, you got molested by that old lady. They were just like, yeah, dude, cougar, get it.
Right. But they were only married for like two or 3 months because he just couldn't handle being married and also having a kid, and he wanted to still be in Gypsy's life, but he just couldn't be married to DeeDee.
He was still a kid himself.
Yeah. And then early on, DeeDee was already saying, oh, well, Gypsy she was only 3 months old, and she's like, well, she has sleep apnea, so she needs a machine to help breathe.
How? I've never in my life heard of someone getting diagnosed with sleep apnea that young and requiring
Dude,
a
even if
CPAP
you're in your
machine
fucking
that
20s,
young.
it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Not that it's not possible, but it's like usually sleep apnea develops when like your sinus muscles and that kind of stuff start to weaken from age too. Or something. I mean, if you're born with like...
We're not medical professionals.
No. If you're born with...
We're just experienced.
Certain, like, deformities in your sinus cavities, then I can see that happening. But, like, most of the time, they don't catch that kind of thing until you're...
Well, especially
5 or something. Like, when you're able to be like, hey, I can't fucking sleep.
Well, especially at that young of an age in general. I mean...
I can't fucking breathe right
A
anyway.
little bit morbid to say, but... 99.99% of the time, if it were a quote-unquote sleep apnea situation, it results in SIDS.
Oh, yeah.
So the diagnosis factor is just not there.
SIDS is terrifying.
I lost my goddaughter to SIDS. That flamingo sweater I have, yeah, that was for her.
SIDS is rough.
It is.
And there's steps you can take to prevent it, but sometimes they just...
If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen, and there's nothing that... No preventative measure can determine whether or not someone's time is just done on this world.
Yeah. So... her dad was just... Gypsy's dad was just kind of like, oh, well, she's the mom, she knows best, like, she's older, she knows... You know, she's helped with, like, siblings, kids. Like, she knows.
I don't know this baby stuff.
I'm
they
not
didn't
gonna...
teach us this in high school.
At this point, because they weren't together at this point. So he was only, like, visiting her. So he was just like, okay, well, I mean, I didn't really notice anything when I had her. But, okay, like, I trust you. And then... Gypsy kind of had a normal upbringing, and then now that I can do this again, I'm gonna bring this up now. It was around the time where Gypsy was around like 4 or 5, I want to say, where her grandmother passed away, because DeeDee was also taking care of her grandmother, and it was kind of after she died, which... There's speculation that DeeDee may have been the one to kill her mom because, like, she was starving her, not giving her the right medications, giving her too much or too little of medications, and was just neglecting her, and she ended up passing away a lot earlier than she really should have.
Right.
That never was established. It was never, like, she never was arrested for it. She was arrested for making faulty checks under her grandfather's name. That she did do a little bit of jail time when Gypsy was, I think, like 1.
But check fraud's a real thing. Like, that's something that keeps you on paper.
Yeah. So, that's just kind of information of, like, a backstory of how it happened. The act kind of goes into that a bit, but not a whole lot. Like, her grandmother's, Gypsy's grandmother's never really brought up a whole lot.
So I mean, on paper, from a legal standpoint, nothing happened.
DeeDee didn't commit murder.
Because nothing was pursued.
Yeah, but it's speculated that she probably, because her mother was very harsh on her for how she was raising Gypsy and didn't think that she had all these medical issues and was telling her that she was making it up.
So she was right and died for it.
Basically. So when Gypsy was around 8 years old, DeeDee said that Gypsy had leukemia and that she had muscular dystrophy, which required her to be in a wheelchair. And I don't know about you, but can you get an 8-year-old to sit still in a chair when they know that they can run around?
There's no way in hell anybody would have strapped 8-year-old me to a chair.
So that's where a lot of the issues came up, and DeeDee would be like, oh, well, like, sometimes she can walk, but sometimes she has really bad days and needs to be in a chair, which, you know, some conditions are like that.
Right.
But then once people started questioning her, and they started questioning, like, well, she can walk without any issue, like, her leg
like
muscles.
Like, totally normal.
Yeah, her leg muscles aren't getting, like, smaller. She's not, like, limping, or, like, you can't physically see her struggle to be able to walk.
Right.
Like, she's just, like, gets out of the chair, walks across the room, walks back to the chair, and sits down. So then that's when DeeDee was like, okay, we're gonna move. And they moved.
I can't answer that question. Can you hold on for a second? I just need to get something from my
It
car.
fucking leaves. And then at some point after they moved, she said that Gypsy was having a hard time eating, went to the doctor, and the doctor put in a feeding tube.
Totally unnecessary.
Totally unnecessary. And then once that feeding tube went in, DeeDee had the control that she desperately wanted back. Because she could put anything into that feeding tube.
Mm-hmm.
She could put, like,
Gypsy
didn't even have to
make
be awake.
her sick.
Right. And you gotta think, at this point, everyone thinks that Gypsy has leukemia. So she's on fucking medication for leukemia. And it, like, that shit's rough.
How are they...
Are they not doing scans?
Yeah, like, who is prescribing this medication without double checking the facts?
She would just fucking, like, travel to different doctors and all of this kind of stuff.
So she just found someone that she could pay enough money to get whatever medication she wanted. Mm-hmm. Wow. I wonder if all those doctors lost their licenses after this.
Probably not. But they probably saw that and they went like, fuck.
It was me.
The long list of things that DeeDee said that Gypsy had, and Gypsy even fucking says that she can't remember how many things over the years that her mom had told her that she had. Like,
and
she
it
would
was
just
all
like
literally just your mom saying, "Oh, you have a hard time breathing now."
Yeah, so she'd just be like, "Okay, add it to the list." Like, so. So
was Gypsy expected to remember all of these issues that she?
No, because DeeDee just wanted her to be like playing dumb all the fucking time.
Right, but like,
so she didn't realize like she had all of these, or she like, oh, I forgot I had that. They'd be like, oh, well, that's just her mental like capacity showing. Like, you can tell that she's not all there. Because also most of the time when she went to the doctor, she was like heavily fucking sedated.
Oh, that's not good.
So her mom said that she had seizures, that she had asthma, which turns out is the only true fucking condition that she has.
So many fucking people have asthma nowadays.
Yeah, dude, asthma's so fucking common. You can have asthma to where you're having asthma attacks like a couple of times a week and on like really bad breathing, or you have, I think what they refer to as sports related asthma is like once you're working your lungs hard enough, that's when it becomes difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go from one to the other. Because when I was younger, I had like the more aggressive asthma, and then now that I'm older, you can grow out of it. Your brain's like, I fucking know how to breathe now.
Well, you're also a particular case with having RSV as a kid.
RSV, so. Slightly underdeveloped lungs. Like,
yeah, like you broken.
She also said that she had like hearing loss, and visual impairments, and the visual impairments are also kind of partially true.
Okay.
Because she does have a little bit of a lazy eye, but it looks like it's been pretty corrected over time because I think she's been wearing glasses.
But the thing is if she was wearing glasses for the wrong prescriptions, it's not doing her eyes any favor.
No, but I think once she got into prison, they were like,
we should fix this. Who are you staring at? I know when I get you good because you just ever so gently rest your head on the microphone.
I'll show you a picture of Teddy's ex after.
Yes.
Gypsy. So, like, obviously, because of all of these conditions, Gypsy was on a mass amount of medications. And I think I'll bring this up again. If you have the chance, Google Gypsy Roses or
DeeDee's medicine closet.
Yes.
There is legitimately a padlock
to see
on the fucking door so Gypsy couldn't access it herself.
I wish that they could hear your reaction to that of you looking it up because you just hear, oh my God.
And the problem is that section of the recording was after the ruined section. I was able to save the first 15 minutes, and that's it.
Oh man, and that was just.
And it was like an hour and a half recording. Like,
she also went through a lot of unnecessary surgeries, and they were fucking crazy. Like, she had her salivary glands taken out. And that one still fucking boggles me. I never, like, she just said that she had a, like,
well, she doesn't need them because she's eating.
She wasn't producing enough saliva, so they just took them out. Or, like, some weird fucking thing like that. And
how does that affect her ability to eat after? I bet you that's...
She already had a fucking feeding tube. Why does it matter if she has her salivary glands or not?
Right, but she probably doesn't have the feeding tube anymore.
No, she doesn't now.
So how does that affect her eating food now that she doesn't?
I think she just has to, like, always
drink a lot of water.
Or you have to have something to drink while eating, or probably.
I don't know. She might bring that up in the book.
I hope so. I really fucking hope so. I want an answer to that. She had some kind of procedure done on her eyes. I'm not entirely sure what that one was for. She also had to have her teeth, like, completely fucking removed and then had implants put in because they don't know. I think it was a mix of the two reasons. Because, one, all of these medications, they have wacky fucking side effects, and they can make your teeth rot out. Also, she doesn't have the salivary glands, so they're not getting... Weird fucking fact, your teeth have to be fucking moistened.
Your teeth are the only exposed bones on your body, and if the bones don't stay damp, they don't stay good.
No, so they were cracking and all of that kind of stuff. And then also when she was younger... When she was alone at night. There we go. She knew that she could walk. She always knew that she could walk. That was the one thing DeeDee told her, like, this is the one thing. Like, you have to stay in the chair. I know you can walk, but you have to stay in the chair. So at night when DeeDee was asleep,
I'd bet a lot of those medications, like, when she was diagnosed with leukemia, like, the medication for leukemia will also give you the effects of the leukemia, so she probably thought that some of that was legit because she was like, man, I'm feeling really crappy now.
Like, but she would sneak into the kitchen and, like, eat a whole bunch of fucking sweets because she wanted to also test to see if, because DeeDee had told her that she was allergic to sugar, and if she ate sugar, she'd die.
Okay, so she was like,
let me just fucking see.
This is either going to be awesome or I'm not going to have to deal with this anymore.
Yeah, so she, I think there was at a point in the time where she came old enough that she was kind of, like, questioning her mom's choices and just the things that she was saying, because she'd kind of catch her in a lie, because at one point she also realized that DeeDee was lying about her age because she wanted to sign up for something, but she needed her birth certificate, and she found, like, multiples with different dates on them.
Was she trying to keep her on benefits longer?
Yeah.
Or
she was trying... DeeDee was committing fraud the whole fucking time. That's the whole reason why she was keeping DeeDee sick. Or keeping Gypsy sick. And we'll kind of get into everything that she got because of Gypsy being quote-unquote sick.
Okay.
So... because of the fact that, you know, DeeDee had this whole thing of, like, oh, you have leukemia, you're taking these medications to, like, make the leukemia go away. Chemotherapy. takes your hair away, obviously, because of the radiation. I'm not entirely sure if
it doesn't on everyone.
No. It kind of
does on
depends
a
on
lot
what kind of chemo you're getting. But I'm pretty sure if you're taking the pill form, it doesn't.
I'm not sure.
I'm not entirely sure. I could be wrong.
I'm not a medical professional, but I mean, I feel like regardless of what form of chemotherapy it is, there's still some form or another of radiation involved, and that's what's causing
I don't know if
hair
the pills
loss.
are chemotherapy essentially, but I think it was. See, I didn't want to get way into that because that's a rabbit hole and a half.
I've never known of any kind of cancer curing pill.
Well, I think I'm trying to make this
rapid eye movements.
I'm thinking. I don't think she put her on, because obviously you have to have a whole bunch of scans done and everything like that to get on chemo treatments. So my thought is that
on the
maybe
IV treatment. She's just taking some.
She was on take at home medication. So that's why I'm thinking that maybe it could have just been one of those medications that were labeled for leukemia, but wasn't actually that. Because DeeDee would have the habit of swapping labels on bottles, so she was getting one thing, but it was actually a different thing. Okay. So that's why I'm not entirely sure. That's the point I was trying to get to, where it was okay, I don't think her leukemia medication was, because her hair wasn't actively falling out.
It was just, the bottle just said for use for leukemia.
Kind of, yeah.
I put blue Kool-Aid in a squirt bottle. It's Windex.
And I think DeeDee was just trying to pull the wool over Gypsy, because the only person that's gonna fucking see the medication cabinet is Gypsy.
Exactly. So, and even then, it had a padlock on it, so it's not like she could just check things out.
But Gypsy's hair wasn't falling out in clumps. It was just that DeeDee was like, "We're gonna shave it because it will fall out anyway." Okay. So it wasn't it never fell out before she just started shaving her head. So that's why I think that she might not have actually been
thick. Because as someone that used to be maintain
her
a
hair
bald
looks
head for a
thick.
while.
If you've seen the pictures of her out now, it looks thick.
When I was a kid, I always had really thin, really straight hair, and I kept my hair short for 10, 15 fucking years. This is the longest it's been in a long, long time. It is thick. I have broken so many hair ties.
Anyways, back to the point. I don't know if she was actually on any medication for leukemia, because that one would be really hard for her to fake her way through.
Right.
So, but she still shaved her head down. Just 'cause. And sometimes she'd let it grow out, and then she'd be like, "Oh, your leukemia's acting up," and shave it back down. So it was once people were like, "Oh my God, is she better?" She'd be like, "Psych," and shave her head.
Right. Just trying to get that attention.
It was all about attention, and they say that they're survivors from Hurricane Katrina. Even Gypsy's a little bit I think we did. I'm not entirely sure. But they said that they lost everything, and then I think, it was Habitat something.
Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah. They gave them a free house up in Missouri. Got it right this time. So they got a whole ass house. They got a new van, and then when that van kind of fucking took a shit, they got a new one, and they're nice vans that have the whole
with the lifts and
wheelchair.
everything.
Yeah,
and those aren't cheap.
And they would get money. They got Make-A-Wish Foundation trips. They got trips to Disney World. They were brought on to a lot of conventions and all of that kind of stuff. They got paid to go anywhere that Gypsy wanted to go. They got to go.
Right,
and they got money for it. And her dad was still paying child support. And so DeeDee's getting all this fucking money because her daughter's sick. When Gypsy was kind of old enough to talk during doctor's appointments, that's when she started getting heavily fucking sedated with muscle relaxers, so she couldn't be well, actually I feel this way, I don't actually have this, and DeeDee could do all the talking.
Right.
DeeDee finally, because her dad was obviously asking a bunch of questions of hey, how's my kid, how did she go from this healthy little baby to
having every disease known to man,
chronically fucking ill.
Right.
She's well, she has a chromosome disorder, and that's why she's so sick. We didn't catch it when she was young enough.
I have a good friend whose daughter has a chromosome disorder, and
it's rough.
Yeah, I mean, she's on her way to 10, I think. I want to say she's probably pretty close to 10. And as far as I know, she still can't walk without aid or a chair. She can't talk or communicate. For a while, I was working with her on, like, baby sign language. So, like, we'd know when she was hungry or when she was wet and needed her diaper changed. But I'm not sure how well it's been upkept.
Right, but so I feel like even if
tough
Gypsy
on
did,
everyone.
Yeah, if Gypsy did have this chromosome disorder, I feel like it would be a lot
more obvious.
Yeah. So obviously by now people have probably understood that DeeDee had Munchausen's by proxy. And it's the best way to describe it is it happens a lot with mothers, and they have found that it really comes from postpartum.
So it all ties into postpartum depression.
They have found a link between it and postpartum.
But I feel like DeeDee would have had to have... Well, I suppose the check fraud was after Gypsy was born.
It was like...
You said she was in jail when Gypsy was around 1.
She got caught for it, but she was, like, doing it.
But she was doing it beforehand. So that... I feel like that would make her more prone to proceed to something like this. I mean, it's just a different kind of fraud, really.
And then also she got, like, really fucking protective over Gypsy. So I think it was just a combination of her... Because... the way that family, like, describes her, she was always, like, the wild child of the family and always, you know, had to have the attention on her. Okay. So I think it just kind of was, like, her need for attention and then also having a bit of, like, the postpartum anxiety. And doesn't always have to be postpartum depression. But you can have the paranoia and the anxiety of, like, oh, if I leave my kid alone, like, they're gonna fucking die. Like... they need me. To where both are... insanely hard to deal with. Always, you know, reach out for help if you're feeling like that. But I think DeeDee had the anxiety part to where she was always like, okay, something's always wrong with her, everything's... So then she just started feeling the need that something has to be wrong. Without being able to... Unfortunately, without being able to answer this question, it almost makes you wonder if she would, like, just sit there and watch her sleep at night and be like, oh, she held her breath for a little bit too long this time. Now this is her problem. Without a fucking doubt, she was sitting over that crib and was just like, she didn't breathe in, like, it took 2 seconds for her to inhale. She definitely has a breathing problem. Like, babies, I don't know about you, babies are still trying to figure out how the fuck to live. Like, they went from having everything, like, fed to them through a tube to, like, I'm out in the world and now I have to, like, force myself to breathe. Like, babies are cute, though. Babies are cute. I got to hold a 2-week-old over Christmas. Slept the whole fucking time. I got to see my sister's friend's baby that she babysits a whole bunch, and he's such a cutie. Doesn't fucking cry at all. Oh, like, he's so chill. Those are the best. So obviously she was getting a lot of attention and sympathy, and DeeDee was living it up. She loved it. Oh, for sure. Loved it. Until she didn't like the kind of attention that she was getting, because she had seen a neurologist because she was, you know, trying to get a whole other disorder or some kind of fucking thing added on to Gypsy's list. Yeah. And this neurologist was like, you know, a lot of stuff isn't making sense. A lot of these conditions aren't making sense. Like, if you have this one, you don't really have, like, you don't... These two conditions don't usually coincide. And he put it in his notes, mother may be suffering from Munchausen's. And he never reported it. No follow-up or nothing, just, like, put it in. So this could have been stopped way sooner. I mean, yeah. It could have been stopped a lot of times way sooner. But I feel like once the doctor is like, Yeah. So in the act, they kind of make it seem like the doctor was the one that reported it. But in reality, we have no idea who reported it. Okay. But CPS did show up. I think on 2 different occasions, they sent out 2 different people. But the thing about that is they always announce their arrival. Yeah. So there's plenty of time to stage the house, if you will. So DeeDee was able to manipulate her way through, and they didn't take Gypsy. And that was in 2009. So around this time, Gypsy started to question her own age.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't know how old she actually was because DeeDee would always tell her a different age. And it was on her 18th birthday that her dad had called. And DeeDee answered the phone and she was like, "Don't tell Gypsy she's 18 today." He's like, "Well, why? It's her birthday. Like, I'm going to wish my daughter...
I'm going to wish her happy
18th birthday, you know?" She's like, "Well, don't tell her that. It'll hurt her. Don't tell her that." And he's like, "Well, why not?" And she was like, "Well, every time she has a seizure, she, like, reverts back a couple of years. So she thinks that she's, like, 14 or 15. I don't want her to know she's actually 18. It'll hurt her."
But realistically, she just didn't want her to know that she could just get up out of that chair and just walk out of the
leave,
fucking house and nobody's going to be able to stop her.
Yeah. Well, in 2011, Gypsy attempted to run away because, you know, she went to a lot of conventions and Comic-Con and all of that kind of stuff. And she had made friends. And at this point, she was allowed to talk to friends because she wasn't trying to rebel. And she told this person that her mom was, like, kind of abusing her and all of the medical conditions and she could actually walk and all of this kind of stuff. And he was like, "Well, just come live with me and I'll get you on your feet and we'll go from there, but you can come stay here and you don't have to be in that house anymore." And she was like, "Okay, I'm going to do that. Like, I really don't want to be here anymore." Right. And ran away and went to his house and was there for like a day and a half before DeeDee found her. Wow. Through mutual friends, and like went there and was like, "She's a minor, she's underage, like you're a pedophile." And the dude was just like, you know,
she's like 18, 19
she was like
years
19 at this time. And the dude's like, "You know what, just fucking go back with your mom. Like, I don't know how old you actually are." Like, because DeeDee looked like she could pass for younger. So he was just like, you know, "Fuck this. Like, just go with your mom. I'm sorry. Just go with your mom." And after that, DeeDee got even more abusive. She locked Gypsy to her bed with a pair of handcuffs and a dog leash at night, so she couldn't leave. And so she knew she was like allowed only in her bed, and like she'd lock her in the room, or she'd like force her to sleep in the same bed as her, so she knew. Like, it was fucking crazy.
That's awful. I'm sorry.
And then it was at this point that she started like actually being more physical with her. So she would hit her if she like talked back. She would be like, "Well, you're not going to get any food." So she was kind of starving her for a little bit. I don't know how she managed to do it, but Gypsy managed to get another computer because she, DeeDee had smashed her computer and phone and everything like that when she tried to run away. Okay. So she somehow got another one. And she went on a Christian dating site. And this is where she meets Nick Godejohn. Okay. And everything started off pretty good between them. Like, you know, he was nice and civil. And, like, you know, she was just so fucking desperate for love that she was just like, "Yes, he's my prince in shining armor," because she fucking loved Disney movies. And she thought that he would be the thing to convince DeeDee to let her be normal. So they set up, like, they were like, okay, because Nick lived in Wisconsin. And he bought bus tickets and he went down to Missouri, and she's like, we're gonna go see the new live action Cinderella movie, and it'll be a great place for you to meet my mom and hit it off, and like we can be best friends, and like maybe like slowly tell her that we're like with each other and all of that kind of stuff. And that didn't fucking work because here's the thing. Really funny. They went to a matinee show because DeeDee didn't like going out late. Okay. So it was an early showing. And
early showings are never full.
No. It was literally just DeeDee, Gypsy, and Nick in this.
And she's wondering what this weird guy is doing watching this
like 20-year-old dude is sitting in a Cinderella movie really fucking awkwardly, like hands between his like legs, looking over at Gypsy, looking back, watching the movie, looking over at Gypsy, looking back, looking at the movie, like looking really fucking creepy. Yeah. And at one point Gypsy's like, "Oh, I gotta go to the bathroom," and then like she leaves because DeeDee, you know, let her go. And Nick follows her, and I guess according to them, that is like when they had their first like sexual encounter. Sexual. encounter in the fucking bathroom. And
in
then
a movie theater.
In a movie theater.
The
and that had to be her, like, first time. Like, that fucking sucks.
I mean, most first times are shitty, but most first times aren't quite that shitty.
Yeah. You know, it was awkward as fuck, because she said she was even, like, dressed up as Cinderella.
Oh,
and
jeez.
she, like... And then they go back. And DeeDee was like, that man's really fucking creepy. Like, stay the fuck away from him. Gypsy was like, I kind of like that guy. Like, we were talking in the lobby, and, like, I think he'd be a really good friend. And DeeDee's like, fuck no, stay away from him. Like, she got so creeped out by this man. Like,
and at this point, she was, what, like 19, 20 probably?
Yeah, so she was an adult.
So she was a full-on adult. She could have been like, Mom, I just blew him in the bathroom. Who cares? It was awesome. Or it sucked. I mean, depending on your preference.
Right, but it's the fact that, like, Gypsy's just, like, the only dude that's in the fucking theater. This dude's cool. I want to be his friend. And DeeDee's the only time that DeeDee was a good fucking mother. Stay away from the fucking creep because he's a man alone. Which, hey, there's nothing wrong with being a man and going and seeing a fucking Disney movie by yourself. Nothing fucking wrong with that. But when you're sitting there and you're staring at the people next to you, that the only other people in the theater, and then, like, the youngest one leaves and you follow her, you look fucking creepy.
I feel like their entire plan on how they were going to introduce her to DeeDee.
I don't know why the fuck. They should have been,
like
a convention or something would have been better.
He could have well, a convention definitely would have been better, but he could have also just grown a pair and been like, hi, I've been talking to your daughter for a while now.
I'd like to meet you, like, formally.
I'd like to meet you formally, like, hello.
But it's the fact that they were talking in secret and DeeDee didn't know that she had, like, a computer at this time, so he could have been like, hey, I'm a friend from, like, a convention that we went to a while ago. I haven't heard from her. Like, I just... How are you? Like, I didn't know you'd be here. Like,
I didn't know that you'd be at this Cinderella matinee.
I didn't know you'd be the only person in this theater. Yeah. But can I say hi to your daughter? Like, what? No way that this...
That sounds staying.
In no way could they have, like, done that good unless she was just like, hey, I have this pen pal. I've been talking to this pen pal. Here's the pen pal. They want to come visit. Like, she should have been like, she should have made it seem like DeeDee's idea. But, like...
But you know as well as I do that DeeDee would have been looking at every single letter that came in. So how would she have gotten a pen pal?
Exactly.
There's
no good way because DeeDee's never going to let her fucking leave with a boy.
Right. Well, she's never going to let her leave.
Well, exactly. But it's just like, God damn. Anyway. So, we're going to talk about Nick a little bit. I don't know his birthday. I just know that he was in his early 20s. He also had autism and Asperger's, which could have added to a little bit of the awkwardness. Nothing wrong with that. But it's just like, I do feel like he could have been like, this doesn't seem right. Also, the fact that he still lived with his parents, and his parents, they took care of him, but they encouraged him. Like, he had a job.
But they encouraged independence.
Yes.
Which is good.
So they were like, oh, like, you're going to go meet your girlfriend. Like, be careful. Well, like, here's your bus schedule and all that. And so he, like... So, you know, they were very helpful with it. And, like, they knew Gypsy and everything.
Which is cute.
Like that. Yeah. He might have multiple personalities. I haven't found anywhere where he's got that official diagnosis. But he does have traits from it. I think it's one of those cases. Yeah, I think it's one of those cases to where it's like, because you can have traits of a mental illness, but you don't have enough to
We've discussed it before.
It's a fucking spectrum, man.
It's a spectrum.
Oh my god, that's gonna be one of... I say this a lot.
That's gonna be one of our t-shirts.
That's gonna be
a spectrum.
It's a fucking spectrum. And murder, cute puppy. It's a spectrum.
I was actually thinking of idea for one for Pam. 73 kids died to be incorporated into that too.
A puppy. Bam. 73 kids so it can die. He killed a cat. Bam. Oh no.
Oh god. It's been a
making
day.
murder fun.
Maybe not so much.
I was quoting that, okay? So, with the whole multiple personalities things, he said that he had this dark side named Victor. It's always fucking Victor, who is conveniently a vampire assassin. And that was his dark side. And that's what he kind of used to categorize all of his anger and bad thoughts. And that was always Victor taking over. But he, like, in the act, they make it look kind of convincing that he had, like, this condition.
But I mean, in a situation
the
like
actor
that,
did
they are acting.
Yeah. But, they did a really good job fucking casting people for the act. Because, like, his whole fucking, like, body language changes when he's quote-unquote Victor.
Right, because he is acting as a person that has multiple personality disorder.
Right.
However, in this particular situation, it was never truly confirmed whether or not Nick had it.
Yeah, but he did say he did have this other persona first. We'll just say persona rather than personality. But he had this, like, alter ego named Victor, who was a vampire assassin who always wanted to hurt people.
Okay.
So I think it was just kind of his mind putting a label onto all of these negative thoughts and feelings.
Okay. Which is something like that, and giving it a name is very common when it comes to...
Yeah, and, like, sometimes that can be, like, a way to separate the good and the bad. And so then you don't feel like you're a bad person. You'd be like, well, that was that person of me.
Right.
And I think that kind of ties in. Like, I don't know if it's common with autism. Like, autism is so...
I'd imagine it probably... It's all a spectrum, so I'd imagine in a way it probably does play into autism.
That's
Asperger's.
why a lot of the times when people don't get, like, a flat-out diagnosis, they have, like, oh, well... Like, there's some people who get diagnosed with bipolar tendencies rather than just straight out, like, oh, you have bipolar, but you have the tendencies of it, but not enough to be fully... like, cut and dry.
You've only got 4 out of 10. We need at least 6 for a diagnosis.
Basically, yeah, because there's so many things that share things that they're like, they call them tendencies rather than the full-on thing. And, like, that's how like, depression, anxiety get roped together and all of that kind of stuff. So, like, it's a fucking mess.
It's a fucking spectrum.
So I think that explains that. But them being little fucking sexual deviants, because, you know, they're two people who don't
just want to fuck.
Hormones be rampant, and they don't know a whole lot of, like, intimacy, and they both were, you know, kind of naive about the whole thing. They were just like, yes. So he had Gypsy make alter egos to match his.
Okay.
So she had her...
So they had their kinky sides.
Oh, yeah. And he, like, wanted her to be all into, like, BDSM. And she was just like, I don't really want to. Like, that's not for me. And he was just like, well, too bad. And would, like...
This is what I want. This is what I'm getting.
Basically. Because he would, like, threaten, like, I'll have Victor come out and all of this kind of stuff.
He'll kick your fucking ass.
I'm a fucking vampire. Anyway. So he would, like, force her to... like, tie her, in air quotes, tie herself up and all of that kind of stuff. But you gotta think, her mom's fucking already doing this with a handcuff and dog leash. No wonder she doesn't want to be fucking tied up.
Yeah.
But, and, like, so she had the alter ego that was her, like, quote-unquote, like, assassin with, like, red hair and, like, wore, like, leather fucking clothes. Also, I want to know what... I think she, like, used a Black Widow costume. I think she begged her mom for a Black Widow costume to use as her Ruby character.
Okay.
There's a picture. There's pictures of these online, and, like, there's aggressive fucking side boob in this picture because it's, like, open.
Okay.
And this is the kind of shit that she was sending. She had one where I think... I don't remember the names of the other one because Ruby was, like, the big one that came out that he liked.
Okay.
But she had one where it was, like, an anime character where you're, like, the soft-spoken, like...
Well, most of the things she said were soft-spoken.
Yeah, but, like, that she was, like, the kind of childlike one, and then you have the one where it was the bubbly rainbow-haired one, and then, you know, things like that.
So she had all these different personalities to go with all his different personalities.
Yeah, basically just to match what he had and to please him. That's why I feel bad that I think that they were both manipulating each other. They were just toxic for each other. But it's pains me to know that she went from being manipulated from her mom
to manipulating someone else,
and then also getting manipulated back.
Yeah.
She even admits that she kind of wasn't the best towards him and that he wasn't the best towards her. So she takes responsibility. That's the biggest fucking thing. She takes responsibility.
Good.
And obviously she confided in him and told him everything, that she could walk. She didn't have all these things. There were some things that she did truly believe. She truly believed that she had leukemia.
Okay.
So he was like, well, I'll protect you from anyone.
Okay.
And she was like, even my mom. He's like, especially your mom. And that's when they kind of got the plan to kill her. The plan didn't happen right away. They kind of waited for, for Nick to have the funds to get another bus ticket to go down there.
Right.
It was just kind of one day, she's like, you know what, we're going to do it. We're going to kill my mom. Get the bus down here. And that the day of the murder, Gypsy and DeeDee had to go to a doctor's appointment. And it was at that time that Nick came into town and was just waiting nearby for Gypsy to be like, hey, she's asleep. I'll let you into the house. Yeah. And this is the saddest fucking thing about all of this. And I hate this. And it makes me feel for her. And Gypsy is just oh my God, I hate that this also happened. Because she deeply regrets what happened to her mom. They got into a really bad argument and a lot of things were said. And then they made up with each other. But DeeDee was like, I'm going to go to bed. Just please don't hurt me anymore. Don't hurt me.
So that was the last thing that
was the last thing that DeeDee said to Gypsy before she died. Was please don't hurt me.
I mean, I feel like that's up to interpretation, really.
I don't think DeeDee knew.
I don't think DeeDee knew at all either, but I think it was. I think that DeeDee was projecting onto Gypsy at that point, because DeeDee was the instigator, and she only felt like Gypsy was hurting her because Gypsy was like, "Why are we doing this?"
Right. And I think it was more so the fact that DeeDee was also trying to manipulate her into thinking that Gypsy, who knows, Gypsy could have been in the wrong in that argument.
I mean, she could have said that purely to guilt Gypsy, and honestly,
yeah, I think so.
And honestly, it seems to have worked if she deeply regrets it.
So after that, DeeDee went to bed. Gypsy waited for her to be asleep. She went and let Nick in, and then the plan was that she went into the bathroom and she laid down on the floor, kind of in a fetal position, and waited for him to carry out the act. She said that she could hear her mom screaming for her, asking, why is Nick doing this? So she heard the whole thing.
Do you think that she recognized him from the movie theater?
Well,
or did she know at that point that they were kind of talking?
I don't think so. But when they found her body, she was face down, so I don't think she saw him. Because she was stabbed in the back.
Okay. So she probably thought it was Gypsy killing her.
No, I think she knew it was a dude, because she said that Nick was saying stuff.
Oh, okay.
So I think she was just screaming out, thinking that, either Gypsy had already died or she was next.
Oh, okay.
So I think she was stabbed 17 times in the back.
Okay.
During interviews, Nick said that he didn't have any kind of sexual intercourse or do any kind of things with DeeDee or her body afterwards, even though through text, because obviously they got all of the text between
pulled all kinds of records. Yeah.
And he was saying how at one point he wanted to, and Gypsy said that she made a deal with Nick that if he didn't rape her mom, that he could rape her. So after Gypsy's mom was murdered by Nick took Gypsy into her bedroom, and then they had sex again. It was kind of at that point that Gypsy kind of realized what had happened, and she didn't want to be involved really anymore.
Right.
She didn't really want to be involved with Nick, so she does kind of count that as a rape, even though she was...
I mean, technically through text message,
an assault.
She gave... through text message, she gave consent.
But, like, I think that was, like, a really, really fucking hard thing for her to do.
Right,
knowing,
right.
like, in the next room over, her mom's there. And then it was at that point where they went to a motel afterwards to wait for, like, the time for when the bus came. They were seen on camera at multiple different convenience stores during that time.
Mm-hmm.
That was, like, one of the things that kind of led people to realize that Gypsy could walk. And then they got onto a bus and they went to Wisconsin to Nick's parents' house, and that's where they stayed. They had mailed the knife that he used to the house in Wisconsin.
How did that make it through the post office? This was after 9/11, and things cracked down hard for 9/11. How did that make it through the mail?
It was 2015 when it happened, and they don't really...
That shit goes through scanners.
Yeah, but when it's, like, within American network, it doesn't really get that watched. But when it's coming through, like, when it's coming through, like... customs, that's when it is.
Okay.
But otherwise, if it's like coming from state to state, they don't really check.
I feel like they should.
Yeah, but if it's weird.
So they're back in Wisconsin now.
So now they're in Wisconsin, and Nick's parents really liked Gypsy. Thought that she was really sweet. Thought it was a little weird that, you know, she can walk now, and she was told, or they were told that, you know, she kind of had to be in a wheelchair because Nick was trying to keep up whatever kind of thing where he had mentioned it, and he wasn't really thinking that fucking far.
I don't think anybody was.
No. At this point, neighbors kind of realized that DeeDee and Gypsy kind of weren't being as active as they usually did, because they would go sit outside on the porch. So neighbors weren't seeing them, they weren't hearing from them, because DeeDee was, like, really active on their Facebook page, and, like, that just kind of stopped posting for a few days. So they called the police, and the police were like, well, the car is here, we kind of can't really go in, because it could just be inside not wanting to talk to anybody. Like, Gypsy could just be sick, and she's just been too busy, like, you know. So they didn't really have the probable cause to enter in the house.
Okay.
And one of the neighbors asked if he could just break a window and go through. And the police said, yeah, that's okay. Like, because the police knew, like, they wanted to check it out, but they, like, legally they couldn't. So that neighbor, he went inside. He saw that all of Gypsy's wheelchairs were there, because she had 3. She had one that was, like, a regular push one, like, and, like, 2 motorized ones. And those were still there. No one was in the house.
So he didn't even find her on the bed? He
didn't find her the body. He looked all throughout the house, because she was covered with a bunch of fucking blankets. So you couldn't see anything. Okay. And so he came back out and he's like, they're not fucking here. But, like, all of the wheelchairs are there. So, like, that's when they're like, okay, maybe this was a kidnapping.
Right.
Something happened. And that's when they start doing, like, the missing persons, all of that kind of stuff. And it was, like, a day and a half to 2 days later where police were doing, like, another full sweep to try to see, like, well, maybe we have a clue of where they went, because maybe, like, DeeDee just ran off somewhere.
Okay.
And that's when they found DeeDee's body. And she was face down on her bed with all the stab wounds. You can find them crime scene photos.
The
I
face.
have seen them. They are rough to look at. I know that was a very aggressive eye roll.
That was the most aggressive eye roll I've ever seen without chicken wings.
They, this is going to make me sound really fucking weird. But whenever I'm looking up and researching a crime, like, I kind of have to see the crime scene photos to understand.
I feel like it's an important part of the story.
I just get curious, too.
But you also have the most aggressive reactions I've ever seen. So they thought it was a kidnapping.
So they thought it was a kidnapping.
These missing Gypsy photos and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then they find DeeDee's body, and they think, okay, well, DeeDee was murdered, but Gypsy was kidnapped.
Okay.
And then the Facebook post gets made, because Gypsy said that she made it because she didn't, because at this point they hadn't heard any news that DeeDee was found, and this was before she was actually found, and she wanted her to not just be sitting there, and this is when she, like, was really feeling some regret. So she went on to the Facebook page that they shared and wrote, "That bitch is dead." I think there was another one that was taken down just because of the language, so Facebook deleted it. that said that I killed that bitch and I raped the daughter too. And apparently that one was like possibly Nick's idea.
I'm guessing so.
So a lot of people went on to the Facebook page is still active, but it's loosely said it's still available
in memoriam.
Yeah, but you can still go read that post, and I went and I read it, and it's really weird seeing all of the comments go from really, really, really concerned to where like, okay, they found the mom, like concerned, and then like, oh, Gypsy's getting charged with murder. So interesting, real interesting.
In that regard, Facebook is kind of a time capsule.
Dude, it is. It really is. So they kind of pinged the Facebook post to being made in Wisconsin. So they're like, okay, well, clearly they were in Wisconsin. That's when they also found the text messages between Gypsy and Nick. And they were like, okay, she's in Wisconsin. They got a hold of the local PD there, and they, like, raided the fucking house. Because I think at that point they didn't know if
it was a kidnapping or not.
Or if she went willingly. At that point, they weren't quite sure.
Okay.
So once they got there and they brought her in, then they realized, like, okay, she was a part of this. They did the interrogation. She then admitted to everything. I don't remember if they were tried separately or if they were tried together. I just know that Nick got 25 year or life in prison plus 25 years without the possibility of parole.
Because he did the actual
Because
deed.
he's the one that did the actual act. He currently is trying to get a retrial because he's trying to... His defense lawyers are trying to say that he didn't know fantasy from reality. And I can see that because in his mind, he was just acting like Victor and doing what he wanted for the person that he loved. Because in the interviews... or in interrogation room that they had him in, like, he was like straight up like, I would do anything for her because I love her. And like obviously by that point Gypsy was like, bye bitch, I'm done with you. Like, she was already kind of over him and just was like, you're the person that rescued me. I kind of feel like you're entitled to me right now, so I'm gonna stay. But once they got arrested, she was like, all right,
I don't owe you anything anymore.
I don't want to be interacting with you at all.
Right.
And, like, they haven't fucking spoken to each other.
Now, I believe you said that Gypsy got married in jail?
She did get married.
Or in prison?
He's a school teacher.
Okay.
Really nice. They seem, like, actually, like, really good for each other.
How much have you looked up now that she's been released?
Not a whole lot is new.
Okay.
Just some pictures. Like, he had to go take her to buy new shoes because she didn't have, like, outside shoes that fit. Oof. So she was walking around in her socks, taking all, like, you just see her taking all this stuff. So he loaded her up because she got released like 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah. Everything that I read said it was very early in the morning.
And there was like a camera crew following her around. I hate that the paparazzi are already on her, but like she went and picked new shoes. She got a new jacket. Like she's finally. She looks so happy.
She's finally getting an opportunity
shoes.
To be.
Like,
a real person now. And
she got into the passenger seat of that car and she just has this huge fucking smile on her face. Like, I don't condone murder, but she went through fucking so much. Like, the only reason... Okay, so during her trial, she's in court and her fucking lawyer comes up to her and was like... Because obviously they did all of these fucking medical tests to see what was actually true, what was not, because the police were going through, like, the thick fucking medical records from DeeDee that DeeDee had. And her lawyer comes up and goes, hey, by the way, you don't have leukemia.
And that was how she found out?
And that's how she fucking found out in court on her in sentencing, finding out that she's about to go to fucking jail. 'Cause she pleaded guilty, so she knew.
Right.
And
she took responsibility.
Yeah, she took a plea.
Very respectable.
The judge was actually pretty lenient on her simply by the fact that, like, they understood, like, she went through so much fucking abuse, and every part of the system that should have gotten her help failed her. So that's why she only got the 10 years, and she pled guilty.
And she paroled out 2 years early.
She paroled out 2 years early because she was really good in prison. She never broke the rules or any kind of thing like that. She said that she felt more free in prison than she did in her own home with her mom.
But she still
doesn't speak ill of her mom.
Right.
So she
probably feels that her mom just needed help, and if her mom had gotten help, then none of this would have happened.
Oh yeah, like it's sad. Everyone lost in this situation.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But she got released on the 28th, and she seems to be pretty happy.
And hopefully moving forward to a better future,
She's moving to Louisiana.
Okay.
Going back down there, because that's where all of her family is. She didn't have any family in Missouri, so she's able to go back to Louisiana and everything like that. I don't know the conditions of her parole.
I wonder if she's going to touch bases with her dad and stuff like that.
Oh, she and her dad, like, got so close.
They did?
While she was in prison, and he didn't know. Like, he found out with everyone else the abuse that she was receiving. And
he had no idea, so he probably felt horrible.
He felt like he failed her. He's like, well, like in all of the documentaries and like interviews that you see, he's like, oh, I wish I could have been there. I wish I knew, and I wish I could have helped. And it's like, oh my god, because he got a thick like Louisiana like accent, and just hearing him like almost cry.
Good old boys.
Yeah, and like it's so sad. This whole situation's sad, but I really hope that Gypsy's able to live a life and put this finally behind her.
I hope the paparazzi allows her to put this behind her.
Yes.
Because that's the biggest thing about media, it seems, these days. Like, if she had just been able to get the help she needed, there would have never been a murder.
She said that she wished it didn't happen the way that it did. Like, she did not want her mom to actually be murdered. It's just that is the only way that she felt she could be free. She was that trapped. It shouldn't have to come to that. It shouldn't. And
if you or anyone you know may or may not have Munchausen by proxy or be a victim to Munchausen by proxy, don't sit by the sidelines and wait.
Yeah, because it never ends well. It never does. But also at the same time, there's this whole thing that is happening to where now, and I think it was because of the Gypsy Rose case, to where now a lot of doctors are willy-nilly just throwing, oh, this mom has Munchausen's, and taking kids away and all of this kind of stuff. Munchausen gets thrown around a lot now, and I think it was probably Gypsy's case that really made it popular. It's not as common as people think. It really is not common. It is pretty rare. It takes a lot of different factors and all of that kind of stuff. And it's now
it was popularized.
Yes. And it's horrible. It's really bad because it's not a fun condition. And there's some people that know that they have this condition and they have to try really fucking hard in therapy to try to be like, my kid doesn't actually have this. Like, you know. So just don't automatically assume unless you have proof.
Yes.
Because you could tear apart a family without realizing it. But that was Gypsy's case. I wish her well.
I do too.
I also hope that she doesn't get a lot of resentment from Nick's side of the family because of the fact that she got out and he isn't, and he's probably not going to get his retrial.
I really feel like whether there would be resentment or not, it depends on how the conversations between her and Nick went leading up to this. I mean, did she have to try really hard to convince him, or was he just like, think so. I'll do it, no problem? Yeah. Because if she was just kind of saying it offhandedly, and he was like, no problem, I'm doing this, like, he could have forced his, I mean, he, from everything that you were saying, you know, he was like, you need to have this other personality because I like it. Right. Stuff like so that. They might have. He might have taken that and run way farther than she ever wanted to go with it. And that's not her fault.
No. And that's why I said that they both manipulated each other.
Definitely.
Because I just think it was a really bad combination, and it was seen as the only way out, and it was the only way that he thought to get her out, instead of just being like, I will show up, we will get on a bus, we'll go to Wisconsin. That is literally what could have happened. Yeah. But he could have told his parents. He could have been like, hey, like, she's getting abused. How do I help this? And, you know, they could have done a
But
whole...
he could have mentally been in a position where he was like, I'm 20 years old. I'm a man now. I've got to start doing things
I got to
for
protect
myself.
my woman, you know. Yeah. So, yeah, it's
something.
It's a weird thing because it's one of those cases that I don't want to be like, oh, I feel bad for the guilty party, but I also feel bad for the victim, but I also don't feel bad for the victim, and I feel bad for the guilty party. And it's like, I don't know how to feel about this case.
I guess I would sum it up as, I feel bad for DeeDee because she's dead now.
Right. I don't feel like I hate what she did when she was alive.
I don't feel like her death was the only possible way to stop the situation. I feel bad for Gypsy because she was abused. I don't think that planning and plotting a murder was necessarily the answer to the situation, but I can also understand how easy it is to get to that conclusion with the abuse that she was getting.
And here's the thing, like, it happened. She served her time.
She admitted to it.
She took
responsibility, and that is miles above most murders in prison.
She shows remorse, regret, everything that the prison system, like,
was built to bring out in people. Yes. Honestly,
she is reformed, and I think she's gonna have a hard fucking time transitioning because she has never lived a life.
She hasn't had to take care of herself.
And I'm so glad that she has somebody that can help her learn.
And I was going to say, in its own weird sort of way, that being a school teacher that she's with now, it's the best possible situation because it's someone that knows how to work with people that don't understand.
And she's going to be close with her dad, so her dad can be there to help guide her. Like, she's going to be taken care of, and I think it's going to be the first time that she's going to be genuinely loved. For who like she is versus... She's going to be growing
up all over again. She's going to be a child all over again, trying to figure out how to work in society and live in society.
And she's 34 learning how to do this. And it's like, oh man, she lost how much of her life. Obviously, 8 years in prison, but she is glad that she,
I feel like
did that. But like,
I feel like the prison time really helped her mature. And
having that routine, though, like after that, is probably one of the best things that happened with her too. Because I know she did a lot. She did go. I believe she went and got her like education and everything. Like anything that she could do in prison, she did. So that's good for her. So that was Gypsy Rose. We wish her the best. Let us know what you think. Like, who do you? I guess everyone was in the wrong, but I guess who do you think?
Who do you think was
worse?
Who do you think was really the bad guy in this story? I mean, obviously Nick is.
Without a doubt, Nick did the murder.
Technically, Nick is the quote-unquote bad guy. However, Nick was trying to be a hero. Gypsy was trying to get free, and DeeDee was trying to be in control.
Yeah.
So, who do you think that is the real bad person out of all three? And we'll see you guys in about... Actually, it's probably already posted by now, because right after this, we're recording the New Year's Day episode. We owed you guys this one because of the audio fuck-up on last week. My bad. I take responsibility for that, but I'm not going to prison for it.
How fucking dare you? No, blame the program. The program doesn't
after you get done with this episode, feel free to stick around and listen to what happened to Ben and Olivia.
Go grab your snacks and a drink, and then, look, it's posted.
Oh, wow. So we'll see you guys for that one.
Bye.